Hello and welcome everyone to this week's episode of the podcast. It's a very exciting week for us here at Jewellers Academy because this is the final week to sign up for a jewellery diploma this year. So hopefully you guys will have heard of our jewellery diploma programs before. We talk about them a lot. We are very proud of them. They are kind of the core of everything that we do. They are 1 year long courses that you guys can sign up to train as a professional jeweler from the comfort of your own home. So this is the final week, the 7th of June, which is this Friday, is the last deadline to sign up to any of the diploma programs, to get the tool or material kits, all of the things, and we'll be starting together in September. So we've got a few months after the deadline to kind of get the toolkits out to you, get you all set up and ready, get your mentors assigned, all these fun things, and then we are ready to go for a year of training together. So in this week's episode, I've invited the wonderful Anna Campbell along, and we are going to be talking about 10 reasons, and we struggled just to have 10, but we're going with 10 reasons to join a jewelry diploma program for anybody listening who's thinking, maybe this could be for me. So welcome, Anna. Thank you so much for coming and having a chat with me today.
Oh, it's just so exciting to see people enrolling on the diploma courses and the people who are right now coming to the end of their diploma, and to hear from them and how excited they are about it. So it's lovely to have that kind of cycle of things going around. And as we've been running the diplomas for a few years now, being able to kind of learn from that feedback from the students, and really, these diplomas are just the right thing, and we have a very high pass rate as well because of it, and we're going to get into that actually.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, lots to share about. And we're not going to share about each diploma individually today. So if you're thinking about signing up for one, we will, of course, put the link in the show notes to each one. There are 4 different ones to choose from. They are different levels. They have different content in different projects. Check them out. Find the one that's right for you. Go ahead and enroll. And we're just going to be talking about why we're so passionate about these programs, why this is what we've put all of our time and energy into over the last few years, at least, if not longer, because we used to run them in person as well at London Jewelry School, and we had a physical premises. So it's just been amazing to take them online. And like you said, Anna, see the students progress, see what they're making each week. And yeah, just the rewards from that are immense. So, all right, we're going to get into it. So let's start with the obvious. The first reason why most people think about joining one of these diplomas is that they want to learn new juicy techniques. So I think whatever level you're at as a jeweler, learning something new that you don't know how to do, that looks impressive, and that will help you develop your design and help you develop your capabilities as a jeweler is always a draw. So this is one of the main things for me about kind of any training. It's I'm like, what am I actually going to learn? What will I be able to make as a result of this? And in all those diploma programs, there are just tons of techniques. And we have packed them full of techniques. Maybe you can talk a bit, Anna, about the techniques and why they excite you.
Um, it, there's just, like you say, there's so much, and I think because it's basically like a 30-week program. So we split it down into terms. So each term you really have 10 weeks worth of content, and sometimes you're learning business things as well, and photography. There's all kinds of other little bits in there, but mostly it's about the making. And each time we're looking at sharing techniques that we know that you want to do. Again, Jess was talking about that experience that we have from running the London Jewelry School, and we know what people want, and the techniques that they want. So as you mentioned, it depends on the level as to what's going to be your draw. But for many people, it's stone setting. Like for any of the levels, actually, it tends to be, oh, where are the gemstones? What do I get to learn? And at each one of those levels, you're learning gemstone settings. So on the beginners courses, you still learn a lot of advanced gemstone setting, actually. And then we move up in the fine, and then to the advanced diploma. And also on the metal clay diploma, there's stone setting included in that as well. And that's always, everyone loves it. But I think what I also love is that we've included different techniques maybe that you haven't tried before. So there might be some wax carving in there. There's, there's little things that you maybe thought, oh, I'd like to try that, but I'm not really sure how. And it means that you end up with a kind of a well-rounded diploma, and that you get to try things. And sometimes you'll be surprised. You'll think, oh, I'm not sure if I'm going to like that. And then that becomes your thing. And another thing, you'll be like, well, I'm glad I tried that, but that's not my thing. And I think sometimes that's one of the main things we need to do for ourselves, is to learn what is our thing and what's not. And this gives you full permission to do everything and try everything.
Yeah, absolutely. I think especially the beginner courses, which you, like you said, are not really beginners. Like we start as beginners, but very swiftly move into some quite advanced territory. But yeah, they really expose you almost like a foundation, and we do have a foundation course, which is separate, but almost like when you think of an art foundation year where you just try so many different things. And I think, like you said, it just exposes you to things like perhaps you wouldn't in the first place. And something we're going to come on to later, but it's when you're new to jewelry making and if you're self-taught so far, you may have experienced bits and pieces here and there, learn this technique or that technique, but it's very hard to come up with your own structured program of learning. It's not quite the same. And I think what I see a lot of people missing, or they share with us that they're missing, is yes, they've explored bits and pieces, or perhaps some evening class, or taken a day course here and there, but to have a fully rounded program where they're covering kind of maybe not every base, because there's endless possibilities in jewelry making, but a really good core of training of kind of things that people will want to learn, that people want to make, people want to sell, just gives a real confidence boost as well, I think. So, and when we created these programs, I mean, I share quite a lot that I made the programs based on things that I wanted to learn. So I was like, oh, what do I want to learn next? I've not tried this. Let's put this in. Let's put that in. But the other side of it was thinking about what is commercial, what would people want to buy, because it is important that we can make money from our craft. Most of us have jewelry businesses or are thinking of starting them or looking to grow them, and so being able to do things like create wedding rings, engagement rings, one-off kind of commission pieces, working with customers in this way, really, really important things. And I suppose the last thing I'll say about techniques before we move on to other things is traditionally, as a jeweler, you would train as an apprentice. So you might be 17, 18, 19, you would sit next to another jeweler and you would copy them. But the world has changed, and the way that things have been done has changed. And whilst there is a small amount of people that do that, a lot of us come to jewelry making at a different age. For a lot of us, it's a second career or even a retirement kind of plan, or you can be any age group and do these programs. And for a lot of us, we're not able to go somewhere full time and sit next to a jeweler and learn from them, often for free. We might have children or other commitments, and things that make that not really a viable training method. So what I love about the technique aspect of this program is we're able to fit many of the things that you would learn in that kind of apprenticeship kind of background. And a lot of people that teach on the course have gone through that. But it's so much more accessible. You can do it from home. You can fit it around your other commitments. You can make as many mistakes as you want. You can still get the feedback. So we'll go into some more of those things in a bit. But I think that's what excites me, is that something that perhaps seemed inaccessible now is a lot more accessible. I'm glad we get to do that. Awesome. Okay, so number 2 is about support. Do you want to start on this one, Anna? The support that, why join a jewelry diploma? Not only will you get techniques, but there is tons of support available.
There is so much support. And we were talking a little bit last week, I think, about online courses and, the online courses that have a good success rate versus the ones that don't. And we very much have kind of looked at that data, and also having done them for a number of years, we know how to help you get there. One of those things is to have that support, because I think when we're working and we're learning from home, and maybe you are working full time and you're fitting your hours of work in when you can, it's about that ability to kind of go, what's that I'm going to do, and be able to kind of get support when you need it. So there's a few different ways of doing that. I mean, the main one I would say is you will have a mentor. So this is a jeweler, a professional jeweler who has their own business. They are the jewelers who are teaching these kinds of techniques, and that they're doing them in their careers right now in their life. And you get 6 one-to-one sessions with them. So 3 of them will be assessing your work. So you will send in your work to us, and they'll be looking at your work. And by assessing, we have criteria, so you know what they're looking for. It's not a surprise. You do know what we're looking for. But also, it's about giving you constructive feedback. It's about saying, look at what you've done here. This is amazing. Next time, maybe think about doing X or Y. It's about giving you that help and support. You also, each term, so 3 times during the course, have a one-to-one with them as well. And, having done courses myself in person, a lot of times I know I was just waiting around for like 30 seconds with the tutor. I never would have got 6 full one-to-one sessions to really get into something and really get help with ideas and techniques. And it was just something that a lot of times when you're in a classroom setting, you don't really have that opportunity. So that is amazing. And the students absolutely are always, that's one of the massive things that people say about their feedback. They just really, really helps them move forward quicker, I think. There's also, with that same mentor, you'll be in a group. It's like a little small tutor group that you'll meet fortnightly as well. And it's a little bit of a check-in, a little bit of accountability. How's it going? Have you got any questions in the meantime? Is there something you need to ask? So that is brilliant, because you then get to know all the people in your group. And, you've got people that are sounding boards for your ideas. There's just so much that goes into that. And then there is also an exclusive Facebook group. So each one of the diplomas has its own Facebook group, and it is staffed 6 days a week by jewelers. But then there's also the whole community of jewelers, all of you on the course, able to respond and help and support each other. So we have packed in that support so that you really, can move really forward. I just love that.
Absolutely. I think our ethos has always been around, maximum support, because why not? Why not? And it's interesting, looking at other online courses for different things that I'm doing. Some of the courses say there isn't any hand holding here, or a very avert, which there's nothing wrong with that. I think it's great to be upfront about what it is. A lot of courses say you sign up, I'm not going to answer your questions, you do it. And there's nothing wrong with that. But I think what's incredible that we're able to offer, which is quite unique, and I've not seen it anywhere else, is this package of support, which makes our diploma so much different to an online course. And I think one of the reasons we're able to do it so well, if I may, is because we ran a physical training center for 13 years. So we are used to inviting people in, working with people from all walks of life. More than 40,000 people came to make jewelry with us at London Jewelry School. So it's one of those things that when people are on the course, they get it, but before they join, they can't really imagine how it's going to be so helpful. I was speaking with someone the other day, and they say they came for the techniques and they stayed for the community. And I think that's very much what happens with us at Jewelers Academy. And there's even people who've joined a diploma, they didn't really want to do the next one, but all their friends were doing it, so they were like, okay, and then absolutely loved it and grew from it as well. So it's amazing for us to kind of watch how that support is so helpful. But like you said, Anna, that one-to-one time with a goldsmith or a master stone setter, or whoever you're assigned with, someone who's appropriate for the level of learning that you're looking to achieve. With the metal clay groups, it's someone who's been in the metal clay world for a long time. Not only do you learn all the techniques and things, but you just pick stuff up being around other jewelers. It just kind of goes in a bit by osmosis. So there's so much to learn and so much to kind of explore here. Which brings us on to number 3, which is about accountability, which you've already kind of touched on. But I think something that is really important for a lot of the students who join the diploma programs are deadlines. So I don't know about you. Well, I do know a bit about you actually. I know that you benefit from deadlines,
Yep.
but I think that there's so many things that I think one day I'd love to learn that. One day I'll do that. And sometimes I get overwhelmed with so many techniques and so many things. And I think what the diplomas help with is that structure to say it's today. Today we're doing it and we'll be finished in a week and we're going to send it into someone in 2 months' time. So very much structured. Maybe you can share a bit on your thoughts on the deadlines and accountability in the diplomas too.
Accountability can be really important for a lot of people. And again, we know from stats around online courses is that people can sign up for them and then never actually watch them or just always be meaning to do them. That doesn't happen with the diploma at all because you have manageable but deadlines to get the work done. And it's there to keep you on target. It's there to just keep you learning. And we've always given a little bit of time at the end of each term, as we call a term, but like semester or whatever other people will call it. But at the end of each term, we always have a couple of extra workbench weeks for finishing and polishing, but also, sometimes life gets in the way and, you're ill or your child's ill or you have a work trip or you have holiday. Yay. So we always give a little bit of kind of extra flexible time at the end for you to make sure. So it's not like you finish and then the next day it's like, right, now it's the end. The deadline is the same wherever you are in the world. So it's not the date just to make sure it arrives with us. It's the date everybody sends it. And we know that the UK students will probably get it the next day. And if they're in the Falkland Islands or if they're in Australia or if you're in America or wherever you are, we know it takes a bit longer to get to us. And that's absolutely fine. It's we want to make it fair to everyone. So everyone has exactly the same amount of time to submit their work. But it is a really key thing for a lot of people. And you may know yourself well enough that actually you may be like, yeah, that's what I need. I need somebody who's going to keep me on target and keep me on track. And if that's you, then this is definitely for you.
It's so helpful. And I think, for anyone out there who's been doing it on their own so far, like, well done. It's hard. It's hard to learn jewelry making anyway. Like, it's not an easy thing. I mean, I very much believe that everyone can do it, but it doesn't mean that it's easy. And if you've been picking and choosing books and YouTube tutorials and things like that, and you've got to the stage you've got to, like, that's incredible. Well done. But I think that doesn't mean that that is the only way that you can do it. And actually, why not have the support? Why not have the training? Why not be a student? Because when you're learning something new, it's just great to be in a position where other people are giving guidance and supporting. And we talk about this idea of like, you don't know what you don't know. I'm actually doing an evening class at the moment, and every week I need to go with a project. And even I, who've done been involved in so many different projects, I'm like, I don't know what I want to make. Do I want to do I want to do a claw setting? Do I want to do a rub over? Like, what? There's so many things. And for someone to say, this is what we're doing, and this is how you do it, and here are the tools, and here are the materials, and we're going to have some guidance as well. I just think, well, what I've seen from the students is they progress 10 times quicker. And I think that's a great kind of investment to put into yourself, to put into a future business if you're planning on having one. And it's a lot of fun. We didn't add this to the 10 reasons, but I think fun should definitely be a reason. It's great fun to do all the making. So that brings us on to number 4. And we're skimming through these. I'm sure we could talk about each one for the whole time, but we want to get through them. So 4 is mentoring. So it was really important when we started these diplomas. And actually, I remember the first diploma that we ran would have been more than 10 years ago now in person. And I was the mentor for everyone at this stage. It was a very different looking structure. But to have somebody there to say, I'm going to be your mentor, I'm going to be thinking about you, and I'm going to give you feedback and support, and I'm going to answer any question I can to the best of my ability to help you. And what I think is lovely about the people who take on this role is they're so passionate about sharing what they do. And in an industry where not everyone is that way, I'm sure every industry has different personalities in, but to have someone say, oh yeah, I've been making for for a decade. I've run my business. I've done these things. Now is the time I'm ready to pass things on. And I can tell you that they are as excited as a student is about the relationship. You know, they're like, I can't wait to see what my students are up to. I can't wait to see their pieces. And sometimes I share on social media, like my students' parcels have arrived. And like for them, it's an incredible thing. And for the student, it's an incredible thing. And that kind of mentor-mentee relationship is, you know, it's something that we'd never want to jeopardize it. And I think it's something very unique about these diplomas as well.
Definitely. I'm in one of the WhatsApp groups with their mentors, and when they receive their parcels, and they're often going, yes, and they, you know, they're sharing a little picture just among the jewelers, you know, and they go, look at this amazing thing that this person has made. You know, they are really genuinely excited to see what you've made, what the students have made, and so proud of the achievements. And when you know you finish at the end of the course, they're just little proud mother hens.
They're very proud. We're all very proud of our students, absolutely, because I
Absolutely.
think we see the progress as well. And, you know, that's another thing which we didn't exactly put in here, but is, you know, our friends and our family can be excited for us, but they may not quite understand the jewelry excitement. You know, I know when I've shown to like friends and people are like, oh, I made this and it took me like 8 goes, and they're like, oh yeah, it's, you know, it's nice. And but for me, it's like, you know, it's very, very exciting. Or when a tool arrives, or you know, these things that we kind of get about each other, which is kind of the community. I think that it's quite difficult to explain it, but we know it, we feel it when it happens. And yeah, that kind of relationship with the mentor is something that people just thrive on. And of course, the practical support that comes from that, the tips, the advice, the things that, you know, because it's one thing to watch a demonstration, whether you're doing a class in person or online, essentially you're watching someone else do a technique, which is a great start to your learning. But that is not watching, is not doing. And it's not until you actually do it yourself that you will learn and make the mistakes, and you know, the kind of muscle memory in your hands and all those types of things. So I think one of the great things about the online courses is we get those really great close-ups. You can see all the detail. You know, we've got this fabulous film crew who filmed all of the courses. I think they're kind of half jewelers by now anyway, through osmosis. And you know, and you've got lifetime access to that. But until you actually make something, the learning is not really going to be going into your hands, into your fingers, into your, you know, into your bones, I suppose. So I think that's something that, you know, the mentors are there to help you with. When you kind of come off the screen, they're still there to kind of guide you through your own messy making journey, because they all are a little bit messy at times.
Yes, and I think just generally on the diploma, it is your fast track. You know, when you're trying to learn something, like we've talked about in lots of different kinds of ways, when you have somebody there to ask those questions and who can say, okay, if that way didn't work, try this. And I think, and then you're like, oh, why didn't I think of that? But it's that fast track to those things rather than you having to learn by trial and error. Just let's get there faster.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I think, you know, the frustration that can come with jewelry making, in my experience, you need support. You
Yeah.
know, if it's your first double gallery claw setting and that you've soldered 8 different points and the ninth point goes, you need someone to say, I did that. I've been there. It was the sixth one that worked for me. Or, you know, whatever it is, you need people to remind you that you are good enough, that you're doing it, you're doing a good job, that there's going to be bits ups and downs. Some days it will just be smooth sailing, other days nothing you do will work, and that's all okay, and we're kind of on that journey together. So kind of they're all relevant to each other. That brings us on to number 5, which is about long-term relationships and forging these long-term relationships in an industry that you're looking to go in or that you're already in. Some might call it networking. Some people have, you know, think that's a dirty word, but essentially it's getting to know your fellow students. It's getting to know the mentors, and you'll also have access to a whole team of people. So even though you're assigned an individual mentor, The classes are taught by all different jewelers, and there are different jewelers in the Facebook group as well. So you all kind of get to know the team, and our team is constantly evolving, and there's more jewelers joining us all the time. So just a really nice example of this is a couple of our previous students are exhibiting this year at a big fair. And a couple of our mentors are going, a couple of our students are going, they're all going to meet up. And that's all been organized totally independent of us. You know, it's just that people get to know each other and they say, oh, are you going to this event? Or are you, are you involved in this? Have you thought about applying for that? And it's, again, these intangibles that are hard to pinpoint, but just knowing your mentor, knowing your fellow students, seeing them as they go through the journey, especially people I find that go through the fine and the advanced diploma or just do multiple diplomas because you forge relationships over a number of years. You become friends, you start to see each other on courses or at events. And those things just, it's hard to say where they'll go or what they'll turn into, but I think they're really kind of invaluable parts of being part of the jewelry community as a whole.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. It's such an important thing. And, we're seeing some of the students who did the first cohort and how their businesses have grown and sometimes starting up their own shop or, it's lovely to have that kind of group of people coming through, and then the new people starting. It's an amazing network, and it is I think Jewelers Academy has that community aspect to it, that you're right, you don't necessarily find everywhere.
Yeah, absolutely. And we were at a conference, weren't we, the other day? Sadly, I had to go home early, but did get to meet a few diploma students. And it's just having that connection with people and feeling like you're part of something. I think it's a really powerful kind of thing. Number 6 is a practical one, and it's for the lifetime access. So again, when people were joining, when we were creating these online diploma programs, we had to think, how do we make them? What are they going to be like? It wasn't random. It was very thought through and very intentional. And one of the things I really wanted us to have is lifetime access. So this means that for any diploma student, whether they finished 5 years ago, last year, whether it was 3 years ago, and as time goes on, it will be longer, they can go back to any video and watch it again. And I think that's so important because as you work through the diplomas, you're going to have a taste of all these different techniques that we talked about, but you're not going to have time to spend 3 months developing one technique. That's not what the diplomas are for. They're very much make new things, try new things. So if you do decide that you love a technique and you want to really explore it, you might want to go back and watch that video and watch it again and look in more detail and listen to any of the Q&As around it and these kind of things, and ask your mentor for some more support around it. So I think it's really important that you can go back. And also, in terms of running a jewelry business, you may get asked to make something that you've not made for years, and you suddenly think, oh, somebody wants me to make a locket. I don't get asked to do that very much, but I do have made it on a diploma, and I've got the video, so I can go ahead and rewatch it and make along and maybe add my own tweaks and things. So the lifetime access was important for us, wasn't it, Anna?
It's a really big thing, because I think if you have learned in a classroom setting or something like that, you're often like looking around someone's shoulder to try and see what's happening. You don't necessarily have the best view, and you're just trying to make notes and you're trying to remember. And then 3 months later, you're looking at your notes and you're like, what was that? What was that? I mean, it. And we've talked about our gorgeous film crew, but the close-ups that they get, they are awesome. They're so good. We had at this conference, we had some of the samples from the metal clay diploma, and every single person who'd seen the course were like, "What?" Especially and Amazon's work, they were like, oh, it's tiny, and it's because on screen it's big, which is great because that means you can see, and in fact you can see better than you could possibly see with your own eyes, because we've got those proper is it macro, is that the right word?
Yeah,
Proper macro shots, really, really, close up. It is absolutely amazing, and it's something you wouldn't necessarily think about it. Oh, I'm signing up for a diploma for that, but you will appreciate it, I can promise you. Especially if you're
yeah.
parve setting, But advanced diploma, when we come to those little tiny stones, you want to be able to see exactly what the jeweler is doing, and you can.
Oh, yes. And just a big shout out to all the tutors because their work is basically being filmed under a microscope, often at angles that are very uncomfortable to them. So
They are.
it's just incredible. I'm always amazed by their level of skill because they're making in an environment that's not their own with a film crew all around them. And yeah, and they just do such an incredible job. So it's awesome. Um, Great. So the lifetime access is definitely, an incredible thing. And it also means, because we understand that in a course of a year, things are going to come up. Like I think Anna mentioned before, there might be illness, there might be trips, there might be anything could happen, moving house, all these kind of unexpected things. And if you do miss a week or a couple of weeks, there's usually time to make it up because you've got quite a lot of leeway in terms of the terms. But let's say you do miss out on a project and it's not possible, you can always go back and you can kind of look at it after the program. It's not about causing pressure. We know that creativity is, thrives with direct lack of pressure, and pressure really doesn't help. So it's never about that, but it's just nice to know you've got these options and that library to sort of refer back to. Um, so number 7, we are getting there, is about structure. So we've talked about accountability and we've talked about community, but I think structure is something a little bit different. And particularly in Jewelers Academy, a lot of us talk about this idea of incremental learning. So instead of a buffet where you say, I just want a bit of this and a bit of that, and I want to try these things, which can be fun. But like Anna said, the fast track, the way that you can improve your skills rapidly is by building on the week before. So if you've done something and you take it one level up, and if anyone's involved in like fitness or anything like that, it's very easy to see the progression in something physical like that, where it's kind of, okay, now that we've got this, we're going to add something on. And now that we've got that, we're going to add something on. So the order of the projects is very intentional. And the same with how the courses progress from silver diploma to fine diploma to advanced, and the same with the metal clay diploma. So this is something we get very excited about because, again, it's just seeing the results that come through when you work through all these different things. So there's some elements of the diploma programs. Often they're the ones that people are a little bit notorious, like the kite project in year 1 or the tennis bracelet in year 2, and even the parve setting in year 3. Sometimes they are almost intentionally over challenging because we really want to push you guys. And often fairly early on, like in term 1 or term 2, because if you are pushed and you overcome kind of the stage you are at and not push too hard because it needs to be achievable, but to a stage where we say, okay, let's really try something now that we've warmed up, we've had a go. Then when you come back to making something a little bit more every day, a little bit more where you were before, you are so much better because you've been pushed outside of your comfort zone just for a little bit, so that when you come back down, it's like, oh my gosh, this is easy. So anyone thinking, I don't know how I could possibly learn to solder, we get you to solder for a day, like the soldering masterclass, and you come back to soldering one ring, you were like, I've done like 20 of these now, I'm good, like it's easy. And that's where we want to get you to, a stage where your making is predominantly easy or straightforward, so that you can just enjoy the process and enjoy your skill growth and all the things that you can create as a result of it. So that's kind of the structured incremental learning. I don't know if there's anything you want to add to that, Anna.
I think you've said it, but I think it is about, giving you something new to learn each week. But as you say, it's also building and practicing the skills, the basic skills as you go as well. So it's not necessarily about, okay, we've done that now, let's never do that again and move on. It's building makes a massive difference in terms of where you end up at the end of your year.
Yes, yeah. And a few of the projects are really good at showcasing that, like the clustering, which
Love.
is, oh gosh, I can't even remember. Is it in the fine diploma?
Fine, I think.
Yes. Sometimes they merge into one for me. So a lot of students say, like, I have no idea how I'm going to make that. And even afterwards, they're like, I have no idea how I made that. But how they made it is they learned how to do the 5 different skills separately on different projects. And then we just put stuff together. We said, you know how to do tube setting, you know how to do a claw setting, you know how to pierce out metal, you know how to make a ring, you know how to do multiple solder joints. We're just going to pop that all in together and it's going to come out with, something awesome. Because I think that's the other thing that as we progress through making these diplomas, it's been really interesting. It's one thing learning how to do each skill individually. It's something all entirely different to put 5 to 7 skills together into one piece, because we need to know which order to do things in, how to protect the bits we've done before while we create the new. So it's so exciting. There's so much to learn. I love it. Okay, and that brings us on to number 8, which is about to build a jewelry business. So Anna, do you want to start off on this one? How would, joining a diploma help with building a jewelry business?
In so many ways, but I think the first one is that in terms of the choice of the techniques that you learn, the projects that you do, they have been chosen specifically to be commercial. So sometimes, some courses can be very high concept and things like that, but actually those, and that's lovely, but that may not be something that actually you would use in a business. So on the beginner silver, you learn how to make wedding rings, you learn how to make engagement rings, you do learn how to work, I know it says silver, but you do learn how to work in gold as well. You learn to make stacking rings and spinner rings and things that people love. You learn how to do them all. And it's the same really, I would say, with the metal clay diploma. And I would give a shout out for the metal clay diploma as well, because you're going through the different kinds of clay, the forms of the clay and different techniques and stone settings and everything. And once again, it is about having that toolkit really to then be able to take those skills that you've learned and put your own spin on it and do your own designs. And that's when it gets exciting. So while we are actually very much, all of the diplomas are very much about teaching you technique. That is like the main tenet of it. That's the main thing. But we also know that for you, it is about making the pieces that you love, and it's about using those techniques to create your designs for your inspiration. And it doesn't matter how many times you see that, we always see somebody taking something and doing it in a different way. Every single time we see that. So that's all in there. We also include business content in the course. The course is mainly about the learning the techniques, but we always like to have that content in. So there's always jewelry business live Q&As with Jess. There's business content. There's how to photograph your jewelry. So there's a lot in there to really help and support you if running a business is what you want. Many of our students do, not all of them. If that's not for you, then that's absolutely fine. This isn't assessed, by the way. We don't assess how to run a business or ask you to submit a business plan or anything like that. This is additional support and help for you. But it is exciting to see so many of our jewelers starting and really growing, thriving businesses.
Absolutely. I think, and our Jewellery Business Academy is our main business training, which a lot of our diploma students go into, and a lot of our students from there go into diplomas. So they kind of mix and match. Some years you're focusing on really growing your skills technically, other years it's more about just getting kind of the business sorted. But Anna's right, we teach kind of business alongside all of the training programs. And I think even just a lot of the skills that are involved in the diploma are very transferable. So things like making jewelry to a deadline, that's going to happen in a jewelry business. And things like, having feedback on your jewelry, being able to talk about your jewelry with other people. It builds a lot of this confidence as well. And I've noticed that I think the fact that it's a diploma, that it's something that's marked and that somebody says, yes, you are doing that well enough, even something that you may already know how to do, to have somebody who's a trained professional in the industry look at it and say, yes, that is a standard that you can sell. It's incredible what that does for people's confidence. I think it really helps with the imposter syndrome. It may never go away, but having a jewelry diploma, having something that's externally accredited, from yourself. It's not just you saying, well, I've made it before, so I can make it again. Although I will say, I think that's entirely valid, but we all know we've got these little kind of voices in our head that can sometimes say, oh, is it okay? Is it good enough? And going back to the kind of apprenticeship model, of how people used to learn, somebody would say, yes, you've got it. I mean, they'd probably say no lots of times and not be that encouraging, but at some point they'd go, okay, yes, that's right. And I think that, okay, yes, that's right, is essential, that we get that feedback at some point so that we, intuitively know I can do that. I've done it. Somebody else has said I can do it. And I believe I can do it. And what that can do for a jewelry business and your confidence as a jeweler, as a maker, and those of you looking to teach and go on to kind of other areas, it's just, it's really important. So lots of things in there. Number 9 is about learning on your own terms. So perhaps we can talk a bit about the flexibility of the diplomas, because we have such a breadth of different people that do these courses. Like I mentioned before, we have people working full time, we have surgeons, we have engineers, we have single parents, we have mums with lots of children, we have people caring for other people, and we have people who have all the time in the world but find it really difficult to just sit down and get on with it. It's not always about time either. But yeah, maybe we could talk a little bit about learning on our own terms.
Well, one of the things that I like about the diploma, as you said, is there's that mix of you've got your deadlines, you've got your support, you've got your mentoring, so you've got all of us over there who've got your back, kind of thing. But we do, and you also have criteria to meet in terms of what you need to make to show that you've learned what we needed you to learn. But you also, alongside that, have some creative freedom to then make that in the way that works for you as well. And I think this idea of being able to kind of nurture our creativity, most of us are not doing a job where we're making with our hands, but I think there's something very human about making, just whatever we're making, just doing anything, cooking or gardening or anything, I think there's something that just makes us feel great. And if you're still listening to us at the stage, then that's something that you really value as well. So being able to kind of there's research on what's called flow, so where we get into the zone so that we lose track of time, and we look at the clock and we're like, oh wow, I've been doing this for 2 hours and I completely lost track of time. And there's a couple of things that we need to do that. We need to be slightly stretched, so we need to be doing something that's a little bit of a kind of a stretch for us, but that we're enjoying doing. And that's when we can get into the flow. And we hear that so much from our students, that they're just so enjoying that creative time. It's kind of giving them permission almost. It's like, yes, a day a week or however you split your time, that's your time to be creative. And sometimes we kind of need that permission. Sad, but if you need it, then we're here to give it to you.
We're here to give you permission, yes. Which brings us really nicely to number 10, which is just to make. That's the core premise of the diplomas, is we will make together. We will make jewelry with you. You will make a lot of jewelry in the year. And, I think sometimes we want to make, it's the thing that we're drawn to, like you said, as creatives or someone who would like to explore their creative side. But there's so many other things to do. And so to have that structured time to say, right, 7 hours a week, I'm going to put it in my diary. It's going to be blocked out. And even if I don't feel like it, even if I'm a bit tired, I'm going to get started. And we know that once we start, we're going to absolutely love it. And, even for people who are running jewelry businesses and are making a lot, there's a difference between making to complete orders or to run a business, and making just to learn, just to nurture your own creativity. Like Anna said, that flow state, just to enjoy it. And I actually met a jeweler a little while ago who said sometimes you just need to look at your bench and your materials for an hour and not even know what you're going to do yet, and just sit in the workshop and just be there and just explore ideas. And permission to, that's not a waste of time. If you need to do that, if you need to have space to reflect, to think, to to be in the moment with whatever is coming up for you right now creatively. Like this is space to kind of explore that. But like we said, a structured space, a space where we're going to also be encouraging you, like, right, this is what we're doing this week. Let's get on with it. And sharing, sharing those skills with each other. I feel like we could go on about this all day, but but we're probably going to come to the end now. The final thing I just wanted to mention that didn't really come up in those is the tools and materials. And, obviously, one thing that can be a little bit prohibitive for people is thinking, well, how do I even know what tools I need for different projects? Even advanced students, what tools do you need for these more advanced stone setting techniques? There's more and more options as you get advanced as well. So it's like making those decisions. And for beginners, what is the toolkit? What do we need? And what do we use them all for? So this is a learning curve as well, which goes alongside the diploma. And of course, we've put together toolkits and material kits, which really just make life so much easier for you because we deliver everything to your door. You have everything you need to get going with your diploma projects. And you will learn so much through just using these tools, experimenting, using the materials, learning about the different thicknesses, the different metals, the different gemstones, with the metal clay, the different types of clay, the different ways it can be fired and filed and sanded and used, and the stones, and the list is endless. But yeah, there's just so much here. So if you have been listening and you feel like, okay, I think I'm ready to go join one of those diplomas, do click on one of the links. There's 4 different ones to choose from. Do make sure you join us before the end of the day this Friday. And you won't regret it. They're just incredible programs. And me and Anna and the whole team are really excited for the next cohort of students joining us. It's September. And yeah, we just look forward to a year of making together. Anna, is there anything else you wanted to share before we
I
sign?
just want to say one more thing, and that is that if you are thinking about doing it and think, oh, I might do it, but I might do it next year, and kind of putting it off. Just one thing to say is around if you want a tool and materials kit, the price of that is like a year ago's price. And next year, it is very likely that will need to be higher. And right now, you can spread the cost of that over 12 months as well. So if you were buying it yourself, you'd need to obviously just pay for it straight away. So if that is a bit of a consideration for you, have a look right now because this is the most affordable it will be. We're pretty sure.
Yes, you're right. The price of gold in particular has gone up crazily, and we bought it a year ago, and we're selling it at cost price. So, so now
Yes.
is probably the cheapest it's going to be. So, yeah, absolutely. Good point. Good point to end on. Wonderful. Well, if you have any questions, get in touch with us. We are always here. And if you already signed up for a diploma, we are very excited. Bring on September. And yeah, just thank you so much, Anna, for coming and having a chat about these bits and pieces. Thanks, everyone, for listening. And we'll see you back here for the podcast next week. Take care. Bye for now.
Bye.